What's up? What's up? What is up? Another episode of the Ball Hog Sports Talk coming your way today, right now. It's Friday, so you know that's when we record. It is going to be nothing but sports, business, and entertainment. The way we delivered it is rough, rugged, and raw. I am one of your co-hosts, B Brown ESQ, aka the Ball Hog, aka the Mouth of South, aka Mr. Excessive Celebration, aka Breezy. Normally one of three, today one of two. Today's episode is going by the title Everybody Gets a Trophy. That's right, everybody gets a trophy. In 2022, you hear old people like me complaining about the participation awards and how everybody gets a trophy, but today we shall celebrate how everybody gets a trophy. We got a whole bunch of action coming to you, man. You know, you have the NBA playoffs, a lot of NFL news. We're going to Formula One, Kentucky Derby. If you can name it, we shall discuss it and analyze it. And you know, we tend not to agree. So instead, we argue. Oops, we debate. It's the Ball Hog Sports Talk coming to you right now, rough, rugged, and raw. It's going to be sports, business, and entertainment. Fasten your seatbelt, and let's go.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, and stay woke. Cause this is the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy, B Brown, ESQ, aka the Ball Hog, aka the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're gonna give it to you rough, rugged, and raw. So come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go, 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 go.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. While the screen is a little more balanced because there are only two of us, we miss our guy, the Big Flow Show. He's out doing big things. With sports, business, entertainment, he take care of that business. So it's gonna be myself and my man ETP, Elsa producer. What's up, my brother? How are you today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just been listening to that Kendrick Lamar since late last night. So I suggest everybody goes out and checks it out. And on behalf of the Big Flow Show, who's here in spirit and on Facebook, what's good, America?
What's good, America? Hey, the pressure is on, man. Between the both of us, we have to collectively take that energy, take that spirit that is the Big Flow Show that comes blowing in from the windy city of Chicago, and we got to make sure that we deliver today, man. We do miss our guy, but we understand sometimes things happen. Taking care of that good business, he could teach a whole class on real estate, but that'll be for another episode. Today's episode is everybody gets a trophy. You and I both have been in youth sports. We've even coached together. We have sons that have played sports. And we have seen that there's been this evolution of sports such that everybody gets a trophy. If you participated, if your name was on the roster, you get a trophy. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing for sports before we really dive into this week's topic? Just more generally, should everybody get a trophy? I've heard the argument that everybody getting a trophy encourages the kids to come to practice. It gives everybody the incentive to be a part of a team. And it is only right that everybody, even little Johnny, who's just as sorry as he can be, everybody gets a trophy. You think it's right for youth sports before we hop into today's topics? What do you think?
No, in short.
Good. You ain't changing on me. You got on that Celtics hat. You got that Boston mentality. I thought you
as a Celtics fan, everybody may need a trophy after what happened this week. But no, look, man, I in youth sports, I think everybody should be celebrated for participating and putting forth the effort. But if everybody gets a trophy, nobody gets a trophy, and what do you aspire? How do you aspire to be any better, right? So the celebration and the acknowledgement of the effort should be, celebrated, but at the same time, you got to have some level of hierarchy. Not everybody can be the MVP. You
Not
can't be the
everybody.
most. Not everybody is the most valuable. You can't be the best if everybody is the same. So
I feel it. Well, you know my feel on it, man. I just think we have softened sports, and everybody expecting a trophy. And I'm getting the calls, and getting the texts, and getting the smoke signals from some of my parents. I coach. They're like, so when are we gonna get together? When's the banquet? Not because they really want to see coach and have the kids see each other. You know why they want to ask me what's going on with the banquet? You know why? Because everybody gets a trophy. They want that trophy.
yeah,
It used to be back in our day, way back. I'm older than you. And since Big Flo Show ain't here, I can let everybody know he's older than me. That's what happens when you're not here. We're going to talk about you. But back in our day, when you walked in the living room and you saw somebody's trophy mantle, when you seen the trophy, you knew like, oh, okay, you must have been a baller. Now you look at somebody's shelf with all their trophies, and it don't really translate to you must have been a baller. It just means that, okay, you must have got your paperwork in on time. And I can,
so actually, now that I think of it, so there was this thing that was cool. I went to like summer camp years ago as a kid,
mm-hmm.
and at the end of camp, this is not sports. This is not, anything related to competition, but the camp counselor gave out awards, personalized awards to every kid in the group, right?
Okay.
So somebody like funniest, somebody else got fastest, whatever characteristics. So that I thought was cool. Like it was cool to get an award. It's
Superlatives,
different,
that's
right? It's
different.
not sports.
Yep.
Yeah. So
And
I
you
thought
earn
that was
that. If you
cool.
the
And
funniest,
maybe,
I get
but
that.
maybe that is right. Like maybe if you're the coach, like who gave the most effort? Like you're not gonna necessarily, be the MVP, but maybe who worked the hardest, who was the best teammate, all of these different
Yeah.
things. Like I can support that. The idea that everybody just gets a thanks for playing, that's just lazy, and it's potentially demotivating because it devalues the achievement of a trophy.
Trophies. They made the song. Was that Drake? Trophies. I don't know who the song was. That my pop culture intellect and knowledge is deteriorated a bit. Somebody made a song recently called Trophies. And I agree with you. I think it deteriorates the quality or just the meaning of the trophy itself. And for my track program, that's what we did. We created these superlatives. Who was the funniest? Most improved. Uh, you know, who had the best excuses in terms of the injuries, which is why they couldn't finish their workouts. It was superlatives, and we had fun with it. But everybody getting a trophy in 2022. I'm sorry, man. We messing it up. For our audience, I love audience. You know what we do, man. While we like to analyze and go back and forth and argue, we mean debate. We like your input. So please let us know. What do you think? Should everybody get a trophy? Is that new phenomenon? Is that a good thing for sport? Is it a good thing for our youth participants? And not just participants now, our youth trophy winners, because by participating, they won a trophy. Is that a good thing for youth sports? We'll let you guys weigh in as we hop into this week's topic, because I got to go. You see, I got on the Dookie chain. I'm feeling so South Florida right now. I got on the Miami Heat hat. Because last night we closed out. Miami Heat, we closed out. Yeah, I mean, but I ain't going to get ahead of myself. We're going to get to that. So if anybody wondering whether or not I'm normally dressed like this, now I normally got on a short shirt and tie, one of my fedoras, but this week I'm feeling so South Florida because we closed out last night. But last week, we came to you from the Kentucky Derby. We were live from the Derby. It was my first experience ever going to Kentucky Derby. I was down in Lexington, Kentucky, and all I can say to you, the supporters and the contributors to the Ball Hog Sports Talk, all I can say to you is before you die, go to the Kentucky Derby. It was like that and then some. It was all that and a good old bag of chips. I'm talking about Fritos, Doritos. It was all that and a nice bag of chips. I had me a good old time. You combine some things that I love. It was fashion, and your boy represented. I might even post a picture too. That nigga so South Florida. It's fashion. It's bourbon. I like me a little bit of bourbon. And that it was hats. I'm a man that almost every time you see me, I'm gonna have on a hat. And then there was sport involved too. So I do suggest to everybody and recommend, if you can get there, get there. Anybody who's ever been to the Kentucky Derby, I hope that you will support my endorsement and confirm to our audience members, put it in the chat. That thing was the real deal, Holyfield. I had never been, but I'm happy that I changed that. Simultaneously, though, we looked online, we looked on Twitter, we looked on Instagram, and we looked on whatever your choice of social media is, TikTok. We saw that not only did the Drakes and the Jack Harlows of the world, because Kentucky Derby is star-studded. You had Drake, Jack Harlow, you had your boy Breezy up in that thing. It was just star-studded. But there was another event, a sporting event that was just as, and probably more star-studded. It was the Formula One race in Miami. Anybody and everybody was down there in Miami, and we don't need many excuses to get to Miami. Everybody trying to get down there. Of the two, because Kentucky Derby is in Lexington every year. Kentucky Derby is notorious for its fashion. The Kentucky Derby is called the most exciting 2 minutes of sports. But then you got these amazing cars with these drivers that are doing amazing feats. Of the two, what would you say? Because this is everybody gets a trophy episode for the weekend. When you think of exotic sporting events with a whole different trajectory of inclusion with the stars and the celebrities and the meaning, which one gets the trophy for the weekend? Because it was the first time ever that the Formula One race was run in Miami. So it doesn't have the legacy and the history, but you see Formula One because of all of its cash, right? I mean, Formula One seems to draw all the cash. All the brothers with the Rolex and the Ferraris, they go to Formula One races. But then you got Kentucky Derby with all the legacy. What gets the event of the weekend as the premier event of style, of taste, of sporting elegance last weekend? Would you give it to Kentucky Derby, or does the Formula One get it?
Well, before I just award that trophy, I need to give you a trophy for being the most selfish co-host on the Ball Hog Sports Talk, for bragging about Kentucky Derby, and you didn't even bring nobody back any bourbon.
Oh, I got you, man. You know what's good is I already had my cabinet stacked with bourbon. So, I mean, I can lie to you and say I bought it in Kentucky.
But you didn't go get it out the river.
You want it right out of Kentucky. I got you.
It's in the river, right? It flows through the river in Kentucky.
You know why? I flew Spirit. So I couldn't buy my kids no souvenir. Nothing. You can't go back with nothing extra if you flying Spirit.
$100 to check bourbon.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm straight. Spirit, you got me. Yeah, they'll charge me another $1,800 for the bourbon. So I whatever I came with, I left with, but I got you. So who you get a trophy to?
So it's a tough one, right? Because the Kentucky Derby, the tradition and obviously the heritage of it, it's just cool to, that they preserve that and it's gone on forever. And then on the flip side, you got Miami F1, which is the first time ever. But I think I'd have to give it to Miami for a couple reasons. One, it was usually Kentucky Derby is the star-studded event of the weekend, right? Like that's it. But
normally
not to say that you're not A-list celebrity, but
A plus.
But in Miami, when there's a situation where there's photos of the greatest athletes across all sport, many sports, there's photos with Michael Jordan and LeBron and David Beckham. Serena was there. Like Lewis Hamilton, obviously he's there working, but just the amount of star power across sports was crazy. And then I think the tiebreaker for me is they made a boat dock on the track. Like they brought in water and put yachts in the track. It wasn't in the ocean. They brought those in onto the track. So Kentucky Derby, it's always just a mud pit in the middle. If they put some yachts with some water, I'll give it to the Kentucky Derby. But
it is
better bourbon, but not a better presentation.
Not a better presentation. And it is Kentucky. I'm biased because I was there, but I did watch all of the TikToks and look at all of the news related to Miami. And prior to that, I was lucky enough to be at a Formula One race in Austin. But the fact that they were able to pull it off and do it in Miami, shout out to Formula One racing, man. That's that different level of money. So I guess I'm with you. They get the trophy of the most elite, exquisite sporting event of the week last weekend. But shout out to everybody who was down there in Miami. Looked like a good time. I do say, whether it be Kentucky Derby and racing, horse racing, or Formula One racing, when it comes to that sport, as a people, I mean, because fashion was a big part of it, but let's keep it real. Not a lot of diversity when you think of horse racing and you think of Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky. But I saw a lot of brothers there, man. There was a diversity event at the Derby. I'm gonna make sure I reach out and work something out with them. I'm trying to get people an experience and go to Kentucky Derby. And even Formula One, you see all of these people, and you mentioned a lot of them. The diversity within these sports that weren't traditionally a part of our community is refreshing to see. Now let's hop into something a little more meaningful as it pertains to what we have been talking about in the past. And I wanted to start off with tell me something good, but you and I also talked about a particular topic that, instead of tell me something good, I think it's time for us to talk about something that wasn't that good, something bad. It was just revealed, and fill our audience in, if you will, about the unfortunate situation and the extended detention.
Yeah, so we've been talking about it a lot on the show. Brittany Griner, one of the greatest WNBA players in the history of basketball, has been detained since actually February for pretrial for allegedly trying to transport vape cartridges with cannabis and or hashish. And the Russian government has kept her detained, and she was expected to have her trial, or at least a hearing, on May 19th, but they just announced yesterday that they've extended that pretrial detention another 30 days.
Right.
So while the WNBA season has kicked off, Brittany Griner's in a 9x9 or whatever
Right.
size cell she's in. So
Just crazy. Just absolutely crazy. And from the very beginning of the story, we talked about how, from a demographic standpoint, the optics, it just looks bad. And if you were just trying to compare Brittany Griner to other athletes in terms of her stature in her sport, WNBA, versus other athletes in their stature or where they stand in the hierarchy in their sports, she would be the Tom Brady, essentially, of the WNBA. She would be the Greek freak of the WNBA, right? In terms of their statistical output last season in their sport. And yet, she was there for several weeks before the American population, before we got news of it. She's been there for several months before the government finally decided to call her detention unjust, or whatever the word that they used. She's been there for several months, and now, while the WNBA season has already started, they're saying they're going to extend her detention. I just don't think that any other situation we would have such lackadaisical response to one of our celebrities being detained in a hostile region of the world. If you think about all of the different categories that Brittany Griner fits into, the LGBTQA+ community, let's be fair, has been very vocal and outspoken about causes, and rightly so. That community, when galvanized, can move mountains. Brittany Griner fits into that LGBTQ community. Celebrities, sports stars, If they scratch their elbow, we make news of it. She's one of the greatest women basketball players of all time. And this celebrity athlete went basically unnoticed and undocumented in a region of the world that has been at the height of hostility. Politically, we are at the height of hostility when it comes to Russia. And yet, no one's doing anything. No one's talking about it. So we've said it here several times. What do we say about Brittany Griner? What's our direct and very clear message, ETP?
Free Brittany Griner.
Free Brittany Griner. Those words. And now I'm at the point I'm so upset that I'm going to go ahead and say it. I know this might be a family show, and we want it to be a family show. So if your kids are by you, just close their ears. Or if you have them listening to the podcast, make sure that you what is it called? Spoiler alert. Give about 30 seconds. I'm going to add to that. Free Brittany Griner, bitch. At some point, you got to be mad enough to be mad. And it's ridiculous that A, she has to go over there because of the compensation or lack thereof in the WNBA, such a premier and outstanding player in the women's basketball game. And then B, once gone over there, she's been made a political pawn, a part of this whole jostling between Putin and America. And no one's saying nothing about it. While she was detained and being extended in her detention, her wife just graduated from North Carolina Central's law school. So she's missing real life events. Now, who would have thought that potentially her wife's first client would be her? It's just it's mind-boggling to think that this is happening under the radar when we have so many things that are put in front of us and pushed down our throat that are a lot less taxing on a family, a lot less unjust when you're looking at, does the punishment fit the crime? So, as we say here all the time, man, free Brittany Griner.
Well, the irony of the punishment fitting the crime, she hasn't even been punished yet. Like, this is before the trial, and they just are extending it. So I just want to call out the absurdity of this. Like, it's not even, is she being punished too harshly for the crime? She's being punished until they figure out how to punish her for the crime.
Right. And I know due process and how they do things in Russia isn't going to fit neatly into how we perceive due process. But at the same time, if we are about the principles that we espouse, then free Brittany Griner. Let's do more. The State Department, like, we should be up in arms. Like, come on, man. What are we doing here? Anyway, I digress. We got to get in the WNBA. I think that's a good transition point for the WNBA because the fact that she is playing in Russia in the offseason, and you name some of the greats, the WNBA greats, most of them played overseas. Every once in a while, you'll have a personality that comes along that is so captivating and has so much marketability that they don't have to play over there. But I'll tell you, every once in a while, that's every once in a while. Skylar Diggins Smith is probably one of them. I don't think she plays overseas because she does so much here on domestic soil, so much in the way of endorsements and getting a revenue stream that she probably doesn't have to. But almost every other current WNBA player plays overseas. Why? Not because they don't have anything else to do in the offseason. Not because, as the Russian officials will have you believe, they want to smuggle hashish into other countries. They do it because the compensation here is porous, and they have to make sure that they have enough money to support their lifestyle. Simple and plain, case closed. That's why they are there. That same condition, shall I call it, about the WNBA has us really sort of in a vacuum that we got to have a conversation. We got to have a conversation about the WNBA. You see this week, players like Natasha Cloud, or who has been an all-star, and even some of the more notorious players like Breanna Stewart, or you want to call her Stewie, they have exposed the traveling conditions for the WNBA because they are flying commercial flights. Coach, I can imagine some of them like I was on that Spirit flight, knees up to their chin, just trying to be in a seat and get to their destination, there has been an uptick of COVID cases. A lot of their players are now in the health protocol, whatever health and safety protocol, because they are contracting COVID while traveling to games because, indeed, they don't have the same amenities, the same luxuries as the NBA. Let's start there, man. What do you think about it? I do like that the women that we just mentioned, Natasha Cloud and Stewie, they've used their platform to expose it, but is it just one of those things that, hey, it's a business for profit. You guys aren't making enough money to change your conditions, so figure out how to make more money to change your conditions? Or should we be looking at this, as we did with the NCAA March Madness situation, as inequitable treatment when you think of men versus women in the sport of basketball? What say you?
I mean, I think from a logistical standpoint, they should not be traveling economy class on commercial flights. I understand that there's a ton of, we've talked about it, in various capacities about the economic factors or the financial ramifications of what the WNBA is or isn't doing. But I think as a cost of doing business, if you're a professional sports league, especially at the level that's being, nationally or internationally televised, I do think that an operating cost should be to accommodate travel, right? Like the idea that it's built into this collective bargaining agreement, like the teams are not even allowed to put their players or their teams on charter flights. Like by the policy of the entire league, they have to fly commercial unless the individual players upgrade themselves or they fly private or they take it upon themselves, however they do, in order to travel in a different capacity. But
I
the
imagine that was
policy,
put. I imagine that was put in there to create some fairness of competition when it comes to free agency, because some owners would have the financial wherewithal to get a private to secure private jets for their teams, whereas other owners would not. I'm imagining that was the spirit behind that collective
well, that
bargaining.
that was that was the idea, right? But I think it was just recently the New York Liberty was fined because they were using charter flights for the team, and then they had offered the opportunity to basically cover the cost, or they were going to partner with an airline in order to accommodate charter flights for all the teams for the entire season. And I don't know the justifiable reason, but it was a declined offer by the league.
That's when keeping it real goes wrong. The WNBA was keeping it real, so not keeping it
Yeah.
real got half your league with COVID, but that's keeping it real go wrong. I don't know why they would decline that either. I guess they're slippery slope. They don't want to get into a situation where every year the condition. I don't know. I'm trying to find a way to
I
explain it.
mean,
I
it's
don't know
one
why.
thing if you're saying like the certain owners don't want to spend certain money, but when there's an arrangement that could be made with an airline or flight provider that nobody actually has to pay for it, I can't come up with a justifiable reason to decline that offer within reason, right? Like obviously if the airlines were asking for a ton of, media value or, certain terms, but I just can't imagine that to be the case. Like I
Right.
can't imagine that to be the case. So I don't know. I mean, it's they have a new, the commissioners talking about they want to expand and have a few more teams, but at the same time, the current teams are strapped and they're cutting, all stars and veterans because they can't fit under the salary cap. So it's not even about a meritocracy anymore. It's very much financially constrained in all these different ways that nobody wants to really talk about the business model of the league being broken, but they want to just continue to sail this ship off a cliff. Like it just
Right.
doesn't make any sense.
In this episode, everybody gets a trophy. I would be remiss if I didn't say this part. So please like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe to both our YouTube channel and to the podcast on whatever platform you like your podcast. But in this episode of Everybody Gets a Trophy, I forgot to give a trophy in the previous topic. Brittany Griner still being detained and extending that detention. Russia gets a trophy for the Tyrant of the Year, right? Like, you're playing yourself, man. Look, stop. Free Brittany Griner. And this topic, WNBA, does the WNBA get a trophy for just a bad business? I hate to say that because I like to watch the WNBA, but at some point, if you're thinking about expansion teams, yet your current teams are so strapped that they're cutting players that are potential all-stars, is it just bad business? Or do we get a trophy? And I say we as consumers, those that have the option to turn the TV to the WNBA. All the women who in their respective areas of life have complained about, whether it be pay discrimination or work environment discrimination. Are we the consumers? Are we to blame that the WNBA is still so cash strapped? Somebody's got to get this trophy. Is the WNBA just running a bad business? Or as consumers, are we just bad consumers?
I think it's both. Right? Like, I think, well, on the consumer side, you have to be able to find the game.
You're trying to make it 3-on-3, but you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem.
I'm talking about from a business perspective. Look, if the current business model is completely broken and all that they're trying to do is replicate the NBA and fit into a landscape where there's already too much noise in terms of sports leagues, like the idea that you're operating on the same exact format of a wildly successful league in the NBA,
right?
And you're basically just replicating that, but you're trying to fit in the cracks and trying to find a place to sit in terms of broadcasting, in terms of marketability. Look, the Houston Comets were back-to-back WNBA championship team. The next year, the owner of the team shut it down because it was not a profitable business. A back-to-back championship team. And so if anybody's going to have a conversation about, more people just need to watch or there needs to be more success, like, we're talking the best team, a perennial champion, and they have to put the team out of business. They have to dissolve the team, and they couldn't even find a buyer for the franchise to relocate it. So when I say 3-on-3, it's just about thinking differently about the business model. It's not to say that women are inferior, so they should only be 3 of them on the court. It's to say, I watched the Olympics, and watching 3-on-3 women's basketball was exciting. And given that 5-on-5 full court women's basketball in the current format that it's in the current media landscape that we're in, is not giving them an advantage to succeed because there is it's very hard for them to find a competitive advantage to differentiate from all of the other sports options that are currently in the media landscape, at least in the United States.
Well, if you say it that way, I think then the trophy has to go to the consumer, the unsophisticated, deadbeat consumer who says they like basketball but won't turn the channel to that, turn the TV to that channel to watch that sports product. And I would even say this. I think that the NBA has been wildly successful because it decided that it was going to be a product that extended well beyond the USA soil. It became an international product, and maybe it was happenstance that you get a player like Yao Ming that comes and essentially, he was voted All-Star every year because he got all of Asia watching him. And then you got Jeremy Lin or Jeremy Lin, and then you had the uptick of Eastern European players. Maybe it was just luck, but the NBA became an international product. Everybody watches it across continents. They'll figure it out from a time perspective, but everyone is watching it. And so the media rights related to that, there's no limit to that. Maybe the WNBA and its players, right, maybe they had it wrong by, instead of trying to demand that the money was better and protecting the product, these same women who are in the top league in the world, these same women then go to respective countries. And so Why does the international community need to, go through, hoops and jump over fences to catch a WNBA game when I'll just see Brittany Griner when she's playing here in her offseason? Maybe that's
Yeah.
kind of the problem, right? Now, my
Well,
suggestion from a consumption standpoint was to lower the baskets. I know some friends that play high-level basketball, some have even made to the WNBA that were insulted by that suggestion. But both of our adjustments, yours, the suggestion was 3-on-3, mine, lower the basket so you got more dunking in it, is really a response to the consumer. There is something not there that the consumer is missing or lacking because even I got to look at the numbers, but even USFL football is getting some ratings.
right.
That ain't the same level NFL. So there's an appetite for live sports, but for some reason, the WNBA is not connecting with that potential consumer. And I don't know what it is. I think the consumer gets the award for being a bad consumer then, not the WNBA being a bad business. And I agree to a certain degree that it's a bit of both, but I would say that the more deserving awardee here is the consumer because the basketball is good basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I think the basketball isn't necessarily the root issue, right? Like, I think the around it is marketing women's sports the same way as men's sports. Like, I understand, and like maybe this is controversial, maybe it isn't, but like the idea that you're just gonna market women the same as you market men, and like it's listen, I could not tell you a male gymnast. I don't know a male gymnast, but I have watched a ton of women's gymnastics. Like, there's different ways and different marketability with men's and women's sports. So the idea that women's sports, women's basketball can and should be marketed and packaged and promoted in the same exact way as men's basketball, maybe that's not the way to do it. Maybe. And I'm
So
not
who gets
saying
the
it.
trophy here? Because I agree with you. And you mentioned the Houston Comets. And unfortunately, our girl Cynthia Cooper, who was a star of that team, is in trouble when it comes to the sports landscape now. If you don't know the story, go look it up. She became a coach, and according to her players, allegedly, she was not a very good coach. She was abusive and said some things and touched some people in the wrong way, and she's in a whole heap of trouble. But when you talk about that, right, that was kind of the beginning of the WNBA. You look at the Cynthia Cooper run and that back-to-back Houston Comets, and they were like the squad. They were the Lake Show. They were the Lakers of the WNBA. And then you try to draw a line between where that was and where we are now in WNBA basketball. Yes, it survived, and I put that in air quotes, but it hasn't really grown much. So who gets the award? Is it the business? Because I do agree the business is bad. The WNBA, for the first time, has a chief marketing officer, and that was just designated last year.
Right.
How do you not have someone that wears the hat of chief marketing officer? But at the same time, like when I tell people, y'all clown me sometimes, but I tell people who really genuinely love basketball, like, yo, you're missing a good product. Now, I know that the viewership is going to be down right this second because you still got the NBA playoffs that we're going to jump into now. But you still got the NBA playoffs, and sort of the overlap means basketball fans aren't starving for basketball. So I'm thinking and hoping in a few weeks, once we have a crown champion, Miami Heat, then people will start watching more of the WNBA games. But who do you think is the trophy? The WNBA for being a bad business, or us as consumers? Do we win a trophy for being bad consumers of what is good basketball?
I can never blame the consumer for not supporting a business, right? Like, if you are I mean, you and I both have business education. We understand the tenets of corporate development. Like, if you are going to be a business, you're solely responsible for the success of your business. You need to get the customers. You need to generate the revenue. You need to make your business profitable. So the idea that we're going to sit here and blame people for not buying the product or not buying into the product is lazy.
All misogynistic, no fair people. I'm glad,
right.
But we still
like, it's not a nonprofit organization. It's not a charity case. Like, it's a business.
I gotta go with you, man. As much as I want to say otherwise, I gotta go with you. It's not our job to inspire us to support the WNBA. It's the WNBA's job to come capture me
To
as a
attract
consumer.
us.
Right.
Yeah, you capture the audience. Like, do
Capture
your
the audience. I'll
job.
give you that. Let's hop into the other basketball that's going on, because that international product that is the NBA had one of its international players last night, Luca. What is what's the defined term of what he did? It's he acted a donkey last night. You look at his stat line and it was filled all the way around. And in acting a donkey, what he did was he made sure that everybody in this particular series held home court. None of the away teams have won a game yet, but he also forced the best words in all of sports, in my humble opinion. There will be game 7. We're going to see Luka versus Devin Booker in game 7. CP3 is going to be CP3, although he looked a little off last night. What do you think about this? In this episode of Everybody Wins a Trophy, man, Luka didn't win the MVP trophy. But last night, he won a lot of people's hearts. He won the trophy of a straight-up dog. The facial expressions that he makes after some of those step backs, or after he hits a 3 or he makes a nice drive. I know Luka is from the east side. When I say east side, I mean Eastern Europe. But he got some brother tendencies, man. Them facial expressions, you get that bitter beer face. Luka was in a zone last night. It was fun to watch. What do you think about that series? Who wins game 7? Does Phoenix pull it out? Because, yes, Phoenix does have the best record in the league this year. But they got a problem on their hands. And that problem ain't from these parts. He ain't from these streets. He's from Europe. That brother bad. That Eastern European white boy is bad to the bone. What do you think happens in that series, man? Do you think Phoenix is able to pull it off? Because they would have to do Dallas being as they here, they have to do what no other team has done in this series. They have to win away. What do you think happens in game 7?
So, I mean, well, Luka, first off, was like manufactured in a Eastern European laboratory for basketball. Like he's been a professional athlete since he was like what 3 years old or something.
It's been a
Like,
while. He
and
been out there
so
playing some hoops. Yes, he has.
so he's just wired for this, right? Like this is what he does. And I think it's funny because when I was watching the Olympics and they lost, he was broken, like, and they had no reason to have any chance to win a gold medal. And like their loss, he was broken because he's wired as a champion. And you can't put it past him. It confuses me. He's like, he and James Harden confuse me as basketball players, because like everything I've known as basketball is like, okay, who's the most athletic, who's faster, who can has the most agility, all of these things. They have neither of those. Harden, obviously, different story now.
Add the Joker to
But
that too. Add the MVP to that too.
and
The
yeah,
Joker.
and Jokic too. I
Doesn't
mean,
make sense. It's unconventional.
it doesn't make traditional basketball sense, but they're amazing, right? And so I think so one of the big stats with Luka, Michael Jordan's points per game, postseason points per game has never even been touched since he said it. It was like 35.2. And while he didn't score enough in the past couple games, but he touched his points per game. Like nobody's ever done it, right? Like Will Chamberlain never did it. Like anybody you can think of that would score, Kobe never did it. LeBron never did it. Anybody that scores buckets never even came close. Luka did it about 4 games ago, touched it, came down a little bit. So that's hard to bet against. Phoenix has been here before. I don't know what's going on with Chris Paul's hand. I don't know if he's injured now, but like Booker doesn't seem to actually have the hunger. Like I don't know. Phoenix just seems like they're getting lazier and they're getting more complacent, while Dallas is getting hungrier by the game. So
Right.
I can't imagine them going into Phoenix and winning that game, but it's hard. So I have to go with Phoenix, but it's gonna be a hard fight.
I think Luka also, and if I'm messing this up, excuse me, I'm not looking at anything that supports this at this moment, but I'm almost certain that Luka tied, I think, Kevin Durant in terms of number of 35-point games in the playoffs before the age of 24.
Yep.
And the other people that were on that list were Kobe Bryant. I think Luka and KD did it 7 times, scored 35 points in the playoffs before the age 24. Kobe, I don't remember how many times he did it. And then LeBron's number was crazy. He started playing basketball in the NBA when he was 14. That's the tale.
We're gonna stop all these
You got to adjust.
egregious LeBron footnotes.
You got to adjust it. You got to adjust.
Yeah.
You got to adjust. He's been playing in the NBA.
Oh, sorry, he was great earlier.
But Luka being in the conversation with people in the likes of scorers like Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James shows exactly what he's got going on. But I still, because Phoenix has CP3, because they have Devin Booker, because they are a defensive-minded team with a coach that knows how to make adjustments, I'm still going with Phoenix in Game 7. But I will have my popcorn ready with a little bit of that Kentucky bourbon that I bought from New Jersey. And I'll be watching. Should be a good Game 7. There's another
Who's
series.
your pick?
Man.
Who's your pick?
My pick, I got to go with Phoenix. I'm going with Phoenix in Game 7. Only because the home team has won every game in this series. I'm going with Phoenix. But Luka last night really had me thinking that I should pick Dallas. So I'm picking against myself. And I'm going with Phoenix. Who are you going with?
Same. That's why I said I have to give it to Phoenix. They're at home. Yeah. They've been there before, but Luka
he makes it hard, man.
Luka makes it really hard to commit to that decision.
And we're going to get to the James Harden thing, but everything James Harden was not last night in a closeout game, Luka was. Yeah. It was like he literally, like you said, he's been a professional for so long. He's wired a certain way. He was built for this moment. You can see that just by his facial expressions. I love when anybody give you that bitter beer face. We all know when somebody do that nose, they chin and they mouth to the side. You're saying so much without saying anything. And Luka had that look all night. So I think he still gets in his own in Game 7, but Phoenix figures out a way to pull it out. The other series that I think is very interesting is a Ja Morant-less series at this point. You got Memphis, who put the pause, as we say down in South Florida. They put the pause on Golden State in Game 5. I'm talking about it was ugly. At some point, Memphis, a Ja Morant-less Memphis, was up by 55. 55 points. Double nickel. They were beating these boys by 55 points in the NBA basketball game. And I only have 2 words to explain how something like that happens. And those 2 words to me are Mike Brown. Mike Brown, I am all for it. We wear the same last name. I'm all for black employment. I studied that statistic and make sure black folk getting jobs and retaining those jobs. I can't stand the fact that the corporate ladder has so many spikes and missing handles and obstacles for black folk. I'm all for that. But when it comes to certain people, Hugh Jackson comes to mind. Mr. January 31st went down there and stunk up the joint in Cleveland. People talking about give him another chance. For what? You won 1 game in 2 seasons. I ain't going that far, black. If that is what it requires to be woke, I'm staying asleep. And Mike Brown now is one of them too. And I'm even going to throw your boy in there, man. What's the 76ers coach name with the shiny head that was a great basketball player and got a son that's playing in it? Because I don't like calling nobody's name out, so I'll let you call him out. What's his name?
Listen, man.
He brought the
Celtics to a championship. Or the Celtics brought him a championship.
I was about to say, he ain't had nothing to do with that. And he got lucky because Rondo was a gem. Yeah. Rondo was just a hidden gem. Nobody knew he was going to be that good as a point guard and a facilitator. Yeah. I'm going to say his name since you won't say it. No, I'm going to say Austin Rivers' dad. He going to be in that group too. I'm not just gonna root for you because you black. At some point, as a coach, you gotta show and prove, man. Mike Brown, how can you take the Golden State Warriors with all of that talent and be down 55 points? You didn't make not one single adjustment, not one. Man, Steve Kerr, look, if that result comes back and you still got COVID, you better cheat on the test, dog. Go get somebody else to take the COVID test for you, bro, because your team needs you. Mike Brown ain't the answer. He ain't the answer for them. Somebody just hired him, too. Where he about to go?
Sacramento.
Lord have mercy. Good news is
that's
Sacramento is where players go to die and where coaches go to die. I'm going to holler at you, Mike Brown. I digress, man. 55
Very
points?
Much on brand.
How you get down 55 points? Come on, man. But
yeah, I don't know, man.
Said that,
like
after they
in a
won
playoff
game,
in a playoff game, like this is not a regular season regional coverage. This is a conference semifinals.
Mike Brown
closeout game. Actually, a closeout game too.
Closeout game. Just like I said, Luke was acting a donkey. So was Mike Brown. Straight showing his behind. You know how, my mom used to say when we go to church, don't you be going here showing your butt. Don't you go in here showing your butt. Now, anytime we go to a nice restaurant or a particular event where she feels like the whole reputation of the Brown family is on the line, she want to make sure that when we go into this environment, don't go in here and embarrass me. She don't go in here. My mom didn't use profanity. God rest her soul. So she don't go in here showing your butt now. You show your butt, I'm going to tear your butt up. Mike Brown went and showed his butt last night. Doc Rivers, he's like, Doc Rivers, I'm going to raise you one, man. You are, Doc, I'm going to show you how to really be a bad coach and misrepresent the whole community. Anyway, man, that had me hot. I'm watching the game like, yo, what are you doing, dog? Are you even coaching? What are you over there doing?
But anyway. Can you put it squarely? Like, is there no player responsibility, accountability?
You always put it on the players. It's always on the players. With that being said, if you have those players in that situation, in terms of the game, potential closeout game, in the NBA playoffs, and you don't make a single adjustment, you've been exposed, man. You've been exposed. And if that means that I don't get invited to the cookout, if that means Black Twitter gonna drag me through the mud, if that means somebody gonna try to call my neighborhood car just because I'm saying that particular black man can't coach, then so be it. He can't coach. The best part about Mike Brown is his last name. Salute to you, my brother. Hopefully we cousins somewhere down the line. Because you have what I would call, you have robbed the NBA for so long. The only thing you was missing was a Glock and a ski mask. Ain't no way in hell you should have been hired by Sacramento. Ain't no way in hell you should have been the acting head coach down 55 points. But I think what the NBA does, and we're not going to get on this, and NFL does too, if you recycle these bad coaches, when these diversity conversations come up, you could be like, yeah, but what about Mike Brown? That ain't no real hire as a black coach, man. He's a figurehead. He out there stanking up the joint. The boy smelled like weak old salmon that's been in the trash. You know when you forget to put the trash out with the fish in it? That's what that boy was looking like, stanking like them Lankins of Piedmont Park. You ain't supposed to be down 55 points and no closeout NBA playoff game, bruh. You're just not. You're not. Power to the people. But Memphis,
when keeping it diverse goes wrong is what you're saying.
Straight up, man. Don't just hire any black man. Hire the black man that deserves it and can produce. But Memphis, after the game, they played their traditional whoop that trick. Whoop that trick. Whoop. I love how they are so unapologetically M-Town. I can imagine that there's some people over there, Jerry Curl, Down Straight Gold Grill, they watching they Memphis Grizzlies. But I do think that they have awoken a sleeping giant because they asked Steph Curry what was the game plan going into the next game, which is also a closeout game. His words were, our game plan is whoop that trick. It should be a good game. I still got Golden State coming out on top there. A Ja Morant-less Memphis, while you could, I think, push through. And look, they made a lot of three-pointers in that game. The energy and the effort was unmatched. It seemed like they were playing for something beyond themselves. I don't think you can replicate that. And so I think Golden State ends the series here. Who you got coming out? Do you think that Memphis can be the Hulk Hogan and, that third one? They about to be down, and then the hand comes back alive. Can Memphis be Hulk Hogan and come back alive to extend this series? What do you say?
I mean, I have the Warriors. I mean, look, they only have to win one. Like, they only have to win one.
Only got to win one.
And there's 2 more if they need it. So I still got to go with the Warriors. But
I should have asked if Mike Brown going to be still coach, though. Let me see Steve Kerr's COVID test before I call the game.
I think they might revoke that other contract. They're like, well, we got a G League opening in Sacramento for you.
I hope they had a clause in there that said if you ever down 55 points, we can take this doggone contract off the table immediately.
It's a wrap, homie.
It's a wrap.
No, but yeah, so I gotta stick with the Warriors. I have them going to the finals. It's hard to bet against. I know Klay Thompson seems to still, he's not fully who he was before he got injured. So I understand it's a little bit less, but the 3 of them together, Draymond, Steph, and Klay Thompson, the idea, if they can't bounce back and close this out, it changes the whole idea of what basketball is for me. But the interesting thing is with Memphis, I think Ja Morant is like this amazing gift and this amazing curse for this team, because when he's playing, everybody else just kind of defers, right? Everybody backs up, lets him just go berserk, and it works sometimes, a lot of times. And if you're gonna rely on somebody, he's on that list of people that you can rely on. But when he's not on the court, I just get this sense of like confidence and discipline and organization from this team. That
and you look at their record, they were like 21-5 without him.
Yeah, exactly. Like so it's just weird because I don't want to say they're better without Ja. I don't want to say they're better with them, but they figure out, like, they have 2 different personalities where they ride Ja Morant till the wheels fall off or the knee falls off or whatever it is when he's on the court, and everybody just backs up and watches the show. But when he's not on the court, then you get to see how deep they are, how disciplined they are, swarming defense, like just how fundamentally sound of a team they are. But when he's on the court, it's hero ball, ISO ball, and and he's that good that it works, and the supporting cast is that good. But their youth is exposed on both sides of it. If they can bring those 2 things together, where Ja can shine when he needs to take a game over, but they all still represent, the tenacity that they represent when he's not on the court, they will be a championship team. But I think it'll take them a little bit of time to develop that confidence fully.
You know what's interesting about these 2 teams playing against one another is that they sort of did it the same way, organically built a young team and created a culture. We're going to play a certain way. We're going to play for each other. Our crowd in this particular area is going to be so into us. When you hear them play whoop that trick after a win, Memphis is on fire, baby. It is one of the most peaceful times in Memphis. Nah, I ain't gonna take a shot at Memphis. But they're all in. Same thing when you look at the Bay Area when it comes to Golden State. So shout out to their front office. I think they've done a great job. Yes, you get fortunate when you draft a guy like Ja Morant, who has exceeded all expectations. Even though the expectations were as high as they could be, he still exceeded them. But those 2 organizations as franchises, they're very, very similar. How they have built from the ground up with a young roster of young men, not kids. That's how you're getting old. We call NBA guy kid, but young men that buy into the culture and a community that supports that culture. I still got Golden State coming out of it, but I have enjoyed watching Memphis and seeing their run. We got to now get to the 2 more personal series of the playoffs.
The East.
Your Boston Celtics. They had the game won. Giannis misses a free throw, and inexplicably, they allow Bobby Portis to get an offensive rebound, a putback that, for all intents and purposes, they go ahead by 1, they win by 3, but for all intents and purposes, that was the game. They come down, and Marcus Smart makes a great play on the on-ball defender. And out of nowhere, Drew Holiday comes over and makes probably one of the most exciting defensive stops. A block from behind. The block itself was amazing, but the fact that he was able to keep it in bounds, it was LeBron James-esque. We think about LeBron James' block on Andre Iguodala, and that's how they were able to preserve the victory when he was in Cleveland over Golden State. This was on sort of the same level, right? Like that play was the play that helped them win that game. LeBron's Cleveland Cavs. And the same thing was true with Drew Holiday two nights ago, with his defensive stop against Marcus Smart. Ironically, who was the defensive player of the year. I'm going to ask you it two ways. Who you got from a heart standpoint, and who you got from your head standpoint? It might be two different answers. It might be the same answer. Who does your heart say comes out of that series, and who does your head say comes out of that series? Because it's been the battle of green, man. These two teams have battled. They've gone at it. I think the Stars have done exactly what they were supposed to do. They've been stars. Giannis has put up crazy numbers, but at the same time, it hasn't stopped the Celtics from fighting back. It's been a great series. This is like the old East. This feels like the old, Detroit Pistons versus, the old New York Knicks or something to that. It's been a very hard-fought battle, but we gotta call it. Who's coming out?
Well, before I answer any of those questions, just to preface this whole thing, whoever wins this series is going to be representing the Eastern Conference in the finals. So just to make that part clear, but
you know what
I've
they
been
call
saying
that?
it.
Those are called what?
This is the analytical. This is the
bad fact, not fact. What is it?
Alternative facts.
What was it?
Alternative facts.
Alternative facts. Whatever. Go ahead though.
So for months now, literally, I called Bucks Warriors in the finals. This was in advance of Chris Middleton being out injured. While watching the series, obviously I'm a Celtics fan. And the Celtics made a really good case that they could take this series. The last 2 minutes or last 4 minutes really of the last game, because you mentioned the pivotal moments that changed created the lead change, but they were up by about 9 points.
They were
with less than 2 minutes to go. And for 4 minutes, they just started playing super sloppy, like it's not Celtics basketball. Undisciplined, turnovers, just crazy. And then in these very pivotal moments, Marcus Smart is your number one choice. Marcus Smart is the one going to the basket.
I think it
Marcus
was because
Smart
of the matchup, though. Because he did get, I don't know if it's
Connington.
Well,
clearly it was the wrong decision because of the matchup. Like, you got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and neither one of them is even a consideration. So all that to say, they squandered that lead, and it just didn't look like their brand of basketball, especially being in the Garden, like at home, and you can't close that out. Like that scared me, where that was their window, and they could have started, at least not broke Milwaukee's back, but at least started to crack a few vertebrae going into game 6.
Yeah.
Now they're going to have to regroup. I think that might have been the backbreaker for the Celtics. Of course, I want them to win, but that means they have to go 7 games. So they got to go to Milwaukee. They split both trips, right? 1-1 in Milwaukee, 1-1 in Boston. So it's not in Milwaukee just won this one on the road. So it's not impossible that Boston goes in and wins game 6 on the road. I just don't know that after that type of a performance that they're going to be able to bounce back and win the next 2. So I thought without Middleton, this would be, I said it, right? I was like, without Middleton, there's a chink in the armor, but without, like, what you can't count out Giannis. Like, when this is all said and done, when Giannis's career is over, I firmly believe if he stays on the path that he's on, he's going to be the greatest basketball player of all time. And the game, blood's running down his eye. Like, it's so storybook and like story of legends. The way that he plays, like he puts the team on his back. He Euro steps from half court and like dunks it. It's crazy to see. So I don't I would love to see the Celtics get it done. I don't think that they'll be able to get it done. I think the Bucks are gonna close it out, potentially in 6, unless
So
Boston
if the
bounces
Bucks win,
back. But
if the Bucks win, you wear a Bucks hat next week.
no, man, I've been wearing the Celtics hat for the entire time. I'm not you. I'm not you. I'm not. I'm gonna keep the analysis to the analysis. And I told you, I'm a Boston fan. It's by law, by Massachusetts state law, you must be a fan of all teams that represent the state of Massachusetts, including the region of New England.
Well, I hope that they do win.
Punishable by 3 to 5.
I hope they do win. I hope they do figure it out because I would love for it to be a Boston Miami Eastern Conference series because the ish talking will be at a different level between you and I. And on the court, I think it's a good matchup. I have to agree with you. Giannis has played out of his mind. And we've got a part of our crew, my man P Funk Parnell, does our research, and he's a part of our show. He's a part of how the sausage gets made. He's a part of the process. And I've got to hear almost on a nightly basis how Giannis is the best player. You give Giannis his credit. And so now ETP, that was kind of slick how you did that, ETP. He tried to hit me with a quick little body blow and think I caught it. He going to bring head talking about Giannis giving his all stand up. He's going to be the greatest. Stop it. Stop it. First of all, whoever cutting Giannis' head, I'm calling the authorities. I'm sick of this man's hairline looking like that. That's a man with means. There's no way his haircut should look like that. That's first thing. Second of all, Giannis
He's
got
a
his
dad,
little brother.
man. He's a dad of young children. He's busy.
You can tell he's busy. He's too busy for a haircut. Come on, man. That says a lot about a person. Anybody that can't get no haircut look like somebody took a doggone butter knife to get that man his face. Something wrong with you. Second of all, I think his accent is fake. I can't prove it, but I think the man's straight from Brooklyn, man. We do how his Greek freak thing. I used to see him back in the day in Brooklyn, bro. So stop with the fake accent. I know it probably goes over well with the ladies to pretend like you really, from Greece. But come on, man. And then third, don't you ever in your natural born life tell me that Giannis is ever going to supersede
LeBron.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan. You better apologize. I can't even believe you said that. Doggone Giannis. I can't even spell the man's name. Fourth, we gonna change how we spell your name, man. I can't even spell it, all them doggone letters. But most importantly, from a basketball analysis standpoint, Giannis is playing out of his mind. I think they end up winning Game 6. It's going to take a big performance out of Giannis. Giannis has done what everyone said that he could not do. Take a team and without his Robin, Chris Middleton, without his Robin, he's still winning. People said he couldn't do it, and he's doing it. And the knock was because he is so challenged in terms of his percentage from three-point land and just as a jump shooter. He's not a phenomenal jump shooter. He's not a phenomenal free throw shooter.
He hit a clutch 3 in a stretch last
He made
game.
a very clutch 3. That was probably, I keep saying what was the biggest play. That was a big play. But I will say this, Marcus Smart going to the basket, his on-ball defender, he beat him and created space. The problem was that Drew Holiday understood that even in man-to-man, you play with zone concepts. He was able to help and get the block from the blind side. Milwaukee defensively and the Celtics defensively, they both have this real defensive-minded approach. It does feel like the old school 80s Eastern Conference. I'm looking forward to another battle. It might not be Giannis that's bleeding, but somebody going to be bleeding in Game 6 because it's a closeout game, and I know that Celtics aren't going to go out they ain't going to go out on the soft way. They gonna play. And so we'll see what happens, man. But whoever comes out of the East, whoever comes out of that
Who's your
series,
pick? Who's your pick?
I'm going with you know what, for Game 6, I'm going with Boston.
Yeah.
I think Boston wins it and forces a game 7. I do think that this is going to be a game 7. Game 7, I got to go with Giannis. But I do think it at least goes to 7. Boston's going to come out with all gun blazing. They got a young black coach who deserves his job, not like some of the other coaches, that has done a good job with this group of young men. Stop calling them kids. And they got a culture. They got a vibe. And look, you got just as unstoppable as Giannis is from Milwaukee, Jason Tatum, when he gets hot, when he decides that he can't be stopped, you just got to sit back and watch. So I'm going with the Celtics to win game 6. I'm going with Milwaukee to win the series in game 7. But it should be a good one. But whoever wins, they got to come to the 305, baby. They got to come to the 305 because last night, while some of you were doing other things, last night, what we did, what Miami did is we closed out. You feel what I'm saying? We wasn't like Golden State in a closeout game down 55 because we ain't got no common sense. When you got somebody on the ropes, what you got to do is start throwing haymakers. That ain't the time to make sure, you got plans for dinner. Golden State was thinking about something other than closing out. But Miami, the Heat, let's go Heat. Let's go Heat. We went up in Philadelphia last night. You know what I'm talking about? Brotherly love. We went up in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And we showed them what some real hardcore Miami boys will do to you. We sent them home. Now, we let them get on the flight back with us because we know everybody's offseason should start in Miami.
I think they took themselves home more than they got sent home.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about it. Because I do want to talk about James Harden. So let's get into Harden. You just said they sent themselves home. James Harden had the same number of points that you and I had in the second half. He made the same number of shots that you and I made in the second half. None. And after the game, Embiid, I don't know what the direct question was, but Embiid essentially said that James Harden is not who he used to be. He tried to clean it up and say he's more of a facilitator now. But what I had heard was Embiid was saying that he's a shell of himself. This ain't the Harden that was in Houston. And let's talk about it. Does Harden get the trophy in this episode that everybody gets a trophy? Does he get the trophy for has-been?
He gets the what is it? The Dennis Green trophy for being exactly who we thought they were.
They are. They thought they are. Yes.
I was hoping and I was praying to the basketball gods for his own sake that he could at least dispel or shed the reputation of being a postseason magician that disappears every season in the playoffs. And he was who we thought they were.
Straight up.
And he let him off the hook.
Went out there, and the best thing he had going last night was his beard. The jump shot wasn't falling. The turnovers were adding up. He seemed uninspired. He seemed like he didn't want to be there. In a closeout game, you're at home. You got a chance to really sort of rewrite the history of what it means to be James Harden in the playoffs, and you show up and produce a dud. That same Parnell, our research guy, part of the team, had everything to say the other night when Harden did his job and scored some baskets in the fourth quarter. We heard everything. Boy, Harden finally. Parnell is quiet as a church mouse last night. You know how you get quiet when the preacher in the church, he talking about something that everybody know you done, and you get quiet. Man, my man P was quiet last night. Because James Harden was invisible. Is Harden of last night the new Harden? Or are we being a little too tough on him? Because now you hear Stephen A. Smith and the like, some of the pundits talking about Philadelphia would be crazy to extend his contract and pay him. He's still a really tough out when it comes to trying to defend James Harden. I just don't think his heart's in the right place when it comes to being a supermax contract, bona fide superstar, unquestionable, undeniable killer in the NBA. That's why I think James Harden is lacking. So I wouldn't give him the trophy necessarily for has been. I just think he gets the trophy for distracted. You don't want to really be in the NBA and be a superstar because, yes, you want to be in the NBA for all the goods that come with it. But the superstar, having all the burden on your back, having the responsibility to lead a team, having the attention from a media perspective, from a fan perspective, and from a team perspective, having that focal point on you, light on you, and you deliver, that's where I think James Harden gets the trophy for just being too distracted. He got too much on his plate. He want to do other things. He don't want to be the star. And that seat is hot. That's what comes with that seat.
Yeah, heavy is the head. But it's not even about being a has-been. He's an is-been. He been this way. Like, that's the problem. I'm not one to say that athletes are overpaid, right? If there's the money to go around, it should be distributed evenly. But he makes a good case for not getting that much money. Because what more does it take? How do you motivate this man to actually deliver as an athlete in these high pressure environments? And I get it, right? Like, sports psychology is an entire industry now because some people are just not wired in that way to perform. And why are we giving attention to all these Celtics haters with the comments on the screen?
I had to. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure you could focus. Like James Harden, I had to make sure you could focus. So yeah, I had to put that on there. For those of you who don't see it, who you're listening to, my man Anthony Del Monte says the Celtics are soft. S-O-F-T, but the T is silent. He says the Celtics are soft. So I
that guy's not to be
trusted
in general. So what he's saying has no validity. But that being said, like, the James Harden, like, the Sixers organization, I just feel really, really, really bad for Embiid, right? Like, he's got the worst fortune. Like, he played with a broken eye, a broken thumb, and he muscled through, and he's a warrior. Like, he is a soldier. He wants to win so bad. He wants to get he wants to achieve. He thoroughly wants to achieve. Yeah. And they keep just putting these lemons around him, from the coaching to the players. Like, I don't know what it is, but ultimately he's just in this cursed environment where he's a champion, but everything else around him.
And they didn't give him the MVP this year.
Yeah,
how does Embiid not get the MVP? He might be cursed. He might be cursed. I thought for sure he was going to win the MVP this year.
He deserves it. He deserves it for everything that he's been putting up with to weather the storm through the Ben Simmons fiasco, to be able to make your team, to continue to make your team a competitor, to be an elite team in the East through like one of the most ridiculous PR crisis since like the decision, right? Like,
fair.
Just an insane, just chaotic environment. And he kept that team on track. And then he gets to the playoffs. They got James Harden, and then they just can't do it. But how do you not give that man the MVP? Like, I understand Jokic, his Jamal Murray was injured, and he's, this big man that can do everything. But what Embiid was able to do with the cards that he was dealt, I can't imagine. Like, he just gets the short end of the stick across the board.
Look, the only rational explanation I have for the MVP thing, I know that's not the topic, but I want to share it anyway, is that it's too enticing to name an international player MVP for the NBA and the writers to not take the bait. And I guess Joel Embiid technically is an international player, but
he's more charismatic. He's more marketable.
But right? he played high school ball here at Mount Vernon. He's just not looked at as the same international player. And I'm not saying that's the only reason Jokic won, because look at his numbers. He balled too. I just thought that Joel Embiid deserves it. I'm just saying that's the only rational explanation I have. They've made it such an international game that now that whether it be on any continent, people feel as though that could be me. And when you think that could be me, you know what you're going to do? You're going to tune in, you're going to watch. And that's the only rational explanation I have. And technically, if you got really technical, Joel Embiid could be considered an international player, but we know that a lot of his basketball growth came here on USA soil, and he went to Mount Vernon. So I don't think it's the same.
But,
that's the only rational. I'm trying to come up with why.
I think it's a stretch, right? Like Giannis, internet, like it's all international, but like Embiid. I mean, look, Jokic is just he's so good, right? Like he's just irrationally good at his job that I don't think that he didn't deserve it. It's hard to be able to win back-to-back MVPs. Like that's thin air, right? Like that is an elite level.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying
and it's happened twice in the last 4 years. Or the last 3 years.
I don't know. I mean, Embiid, he was about to be. I mean, he's scoring champion. Like, I just can't. It's hard, right? I would have voted for Embiid, but I can't sit here and slight Jokic for not winning it. But it's unfortunate because he just continues to come up short. In every
way imaginable. I thought that was that man's trophy. That it was a shoo-in. It was his to lose. Yeah. And late in the stretch, the games he lost, I guess you could argue as a voter, he lost it by the late stretch games that they came up short in, but it wasn't because of his doing. Without Embiid, as we saw early in this series, the 76ers were a pedestrian team that had a very average coach. That's who they were without Embiid. With Embiid, they were a contender. So I see some of your comments, and we like the contributions from our live audience, but it seems as though the audience wants to give James Harden either the Fat Albert Award, the Big Fat Lazy Trophy. I don't see anything supporting Harden and his lack of productivity last night, and overall, really, when it comes to him being in the 76ers jersey. So I want to also, from that series, give the award for the Petty Betty Award. The man who, in our group text, I told y'all was going to be the difference and made sure that the closeout game was indeed a closeout game. Petty Betty himself, Mr. Jimmy Buckets. That man is still mad about a certain thing that the 76ers did. If you don't believe me, just listen to Jimmy.
Tobias Harris over me?
Love it. Hey.
Tobias Harris over me?
If you don't know what that means, I'm going to give you the gold Dookie Link Chain Miami 305 translation. You played yourself, homie. You ain't got Tobias Harris and kept him over me? Over me? Jimmy Buckets, the man who creates confusion in every locker room. I'm cool with your confusion, my brother. Sometimes you got to accept some things in order to get other things. I'm going to accept the fact that you always the confusion, you the cancer, you the chaos, because you get the trophy for Petty Betty, baby. That was a long time ago, that Tobias Harris thing. But Jimmy Buckets ain't over it. And in a world of youth sports where everybody gets the participation award, Jimmy Buckets is a breath of fresh air. He is old school. We ain't friends. I'm still mad. And I want the whole world to know Tobias Harris over me. We had to bleep out the rest because we're a family show. 305. I don't care if it's the Celtics to come out of that series. I don't care if it's Milwaukee to come out of the series. We got Petty Betty. We got the man that can wear the gold link. He's 305, baby. It comes, and we got these Marquette guys that come down there and get tough. Dwayne Wade didn't get on his cartwheel tour until after he left Miami. I don't know what he got going on now, but he was the toughest man in basketball while he was down in Miami. And now Jimmy Buckets is. That's how we do it. 305. Come down there playing if you want to. You're going to get your head split open to the white meat. That's what we got, because we got home court advantage throughout the Eastern Conference Finals. So I don't care who's on the other side of this fight. You better be ready.
They
Jimmy
won't have to
Buckets.
go
That's your
far to
last
go
warning.
fishing. It's they can go fishing right off their dock in their backyard.
We ain't
After
got to go far.
you don't even have to travel.
Let's go, Heat.
You could do a home game fishing fishing excursion.
Yo, straight up, my man Scott Beard says in my Soldier Boy voice, Tobias Harris over me. That is what that you heard the real pain in that voice of Jimmy Buckets. He really was in disbelief at some point when he sat down in whatever living room he was living in at that time, and his agent was having the conversation that they're gonna go in a different route. They're gonna go to Tobias Harris. At that moment, there was something seething in his soul, something that was sizzling in his spirit. And it has now, by way of this elimination game, it has resurfaced. And I'm here for it. You get the Petty Betty Award, Jimmy Butler, and let's take it all the way into the Eastern Conference Finals and then into the finals, because whoever go on the other side of that fight, they're going down, baby. Let's talk about some of the trophies that were actually given in the NBA. Last week, we talked about my guy, Tyler Hero, being the first white American-born player to win one of the superlatives in a long time, NBA awards. This week, we had the MVP that was awarded to Jokic. The Joker winning the MVP, we finally talked about it. We understand it, or we don't. The other award was, Coach of the Year. And my man, Monty, if you don't know Monty is a Notre Dame man. He led Phoenix Suns to the best record in all of NBA. And Monty Williams, man, an amazing story. If you haven't heard, unfortunately, he lost his wife, but he was such an example of strength, because his faith never wavered whatsoever. Anyone that has played for him, Chris Paul is one of the latest examples of it, but they just talk about how he's a man of faith and how he's so much more than a coach. And I took the unenviable position of talking about Hugh Jackson and Doc Rivers and Mike Brown as black coaches. Let me just say, when it comes to Monty Williams, as brothers, whether it be corporate America or sports, we couldn't ask for a better representative, man. So shout out to Monty Williams. Happy that he won that award. The other thing in this episode that everybody gets an award is now they are going to redesign the Legacy Awards, the Bill Russell and what's the other award they're going to redesign?
The Larry O'Brien
Award.
Trophy.
But now they've added an award. They've added the Larry Bird Award that's going to be awarded to the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. And they've added the Magic Johnson Award that's going to be awarded to the Western Conference MVP. And in this episode that everybody gets an award, I think that's ridiculous. We just coming up with award ceremonies and different trophies just so we can say that. And you know, I can hear it now. Oh, I can hear it now. I can hear some little buffoon in somebody's barbershop when the GOAT conversation comes up about basketball. They're going to use that little fun fact. Yeah, but such and such won the Larry Bird Eastern Conference Final Award, and Michael Jordan never won it. I can just hear the person already now using that buffoonery as a reason why that person is the GOAT. I can't stand the fact that they've done this. I think this is a part of this societal need, this obsession for trophies. Why do we need a conference MVP? Like, if you are the conference MVP, what you need to do is go get ready for the finals and keep playing. You don't need no trophy. Am I tripping? Am I too old school? Like, what are we doing?
So I agree. I don't think that there needs to necessarily be a trophy. I think it's really cool, though, that they're honoring Magic and Bird and tying them together into the kind of legacy of the league by giving these opposing trophies. Like, I think that's cool.
They're not forcing it.
They're forcing it a little bit, but at the same time, I think that's cool. Like, I think giving, Larry and Magic, because Michael Jordan is credited with really commercially setting the NBA on the trajectory that it has gotten to, right? So, but in reality, Magic and Larry saved the NBA. Like, the NBA was probably closer to what the WNBA is than what the NBA is right now. At the
Right.
time when Magic and Larry came in and essentially created the product that, you know, catapulted it to be one of the most popular, sports or sports leagues in the world.
Right.
So in some way, I think they deserve a recognition. Now, giving an MVP, like, are we
You're
gonna now
saying that with a
have?
Celtics hat on, but I'm still I'm picking up what you're putting down. You said
Look,
that with a Celtics hat on, but I got you.
I'll take Magic over Larry if that's what you want me to tell you.
You know, I'll take Larry over Magic. That's a
All right.
conversation for a different day. But go ahead.
So yeah, but I mean, it's the conference final. Like, then are we gonna get into like semifinal champion and first round
Everybody gets a
MVP?
trophy. This generation, man, because now you got to realize that the entire NBA grew up in this everybody gets a trophy generation.
Yeah.
They just it's just I think it's silly, but not surprising in 2022. Let's come up with another trophy. I do got to address this because my man, what's up? So he says James is just a star. Superstars show up in big games, and I put that comment up there because that's my man Dade County, because we had this conversation and mark this day, mark this moment. I feel like we got to do at least a segment, if not an entire show, on what's the difference between a star and a superstar. Because I would say James Harden is a superstar. He's just one that doesn't own up to being it
Doesn't live up to
in
the
big moments.
title.
He doesn't own up to being what he doesn't live up to his responsibilities in big moments. So we'll say a superstar that is lazy, a superstar that's distracted, but he's still a superstar to me. But we gotta address this, man. It ain't gonna be today. We gotta address this because I would say James Harden is a superstar. Let's hop on real quick, man, because we're getting a little long today. So let's move on quick to this NFL news. The schedules came out, and the easiest schedule, according to a few pundits, is the New York Giants, and that's just them throwing them a life jacket, if you will, because they've been bad for so long. The team that travels the most is Seattle. All in all, close to 30,000 miles. The team that travels the least is Pittsburgh, only traveling 6,442 miles. All of the Steelers games are in the same time zone, on the Eastern time zone. Eastern, I don't know, it's Eastern Standard, Eastern, whatever it is. I think, as a Cleveland Browns fan and a conspiracy theorist when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think that was done on purpose. As a conspiracy theorist and knows that Brian Flores, who has a lawsuit against the NFL, is now one of the coaches for the Pittsburgh. Like, the conspiracy theory in me says that's why they got, both an easy schedule in terms of travel, and I think an easy schedule in terms of the competition. The 49ers and 12 other teams have the max.
It's a conspiracy that the Browns are terrible.
We not so hey now. I don't even know what you're talking. Hey now, rock star. I don't know what you're talking about. This the Browns year. We're gonna win the Super Bowl. It is what it is. Deshaun, get off. Go. Look, man. Let's go ahead and settle it. Let's do a name, image, and likeness deal for all of Deshaun's plaintiffs, so we can settle this stuff and get to moving. Let's win some football games, Deshaun. But as long as Deshaun is under center,
what brands are gonna do this name, image, and likeness deal?
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there for anybody that wants to start a fund so we can settle all these lawsuits. Let's get this done, man. Deshaun, get it done. Sometimes it's better to be done than to be right. I don't care how right you are. I know it's your name that you're trying to protect. I know that if you're innocent, you're gonna fight to the death. And what I'm saying to you as a Cleveland Brown fan, don't none of that matter, man. Let's settle all these lawsuits. Let's win some football games. The other thing that I had to talk about NFL, man, is the trophy that has to be awarded is the stupidity trophy, and Fox gets it because Fox just paid a man. I'm not gonna get into what he accomplished on the field, but in terms of being in the booth, ain't never been in the booth. Yet he just got a 10-year, $375 million. Those are US dollars. To be a lead NFL analyst, and he's never done it. Never. I would have done it for $375. As long as you give me the opportunity. And you paid a man $375 million?
I mean, 10 years, $375. That's $3,000. That's almost $4,000, man. That's not bad.
I would have took that $4,000. Give me the 375. I'll take that $4,000, and it would have launched everything else, man. The Ball Hog Sports Talk would have been everywhere, baby.
You can go to the Derby on Delta or JetBlue, maybe.
He took $37.5 million a year. I would have took $375 a year. But I promise you, I would have delivered just as good, if not better, content, because at least I've done it. The man ain't never done it. And he getting 10 years, 375. So if you ever, Patriots fans, if you ever, Michigan fans, if you ever, Tom Brady fans, wondered why so many people hate this man, it's stuff like this. I ain't going to give him the trophy on this one, because all he did was take money. All he did is make sure that the wiring is right. I ain't mad at it. Get the direct deposit, dog. Get your bread, homie. But I am going to give Fox a doggone Stupidity of the Year trophy. How you going to pay a man $37.5 million a year to do something he ain't never done?
And to do it at a time that is yet to be determined.
Yet to be determined.
He's not retiring, and so we don't know. But
I'm coming back as Tom Brady, man. Because you know what I mean. At some point, I don't believe in the Illuminati.
When you die and come back as Tom Brady's gonna be there playing for the Bucks, being like, "Why are you here trying to take my spot?"
Tom Brady's gonna be alive forever. He's gonna be signing a contract forever.
But you know who I blame for this whole thing? Tony Romo.
Yeah, but even Tony Romo didn't get that kind of deal. Tony Romo showed through.
No, and I'll explain to you why it's Tony Romo.
All right.
Tony Romo makes $18 million a year.
Right.
Just imagine the conversations that happen when Tom Brady's representatives are in the room and say, okay, how many playoff games did Tony Romo win?
They negotiated one negotiating two.
So considering that he has 0 Super Bowl rings and Tom Brady has 7 and counting, so the negotiation probably started at like 5x Tony Romo, and they were like, you know what? Let's be conservative here. We'll give him double. Like that should
they got to this point. They worked through this point. You start off with the only word you're allowed to say in pre-negotiation planning. The only word you're allowed to say for the first 5 minutes are Tony Romo, and then we'll start getting numbers. We're just gonna say
write Tony Romo on a piece of paper and slide it across the table. That's how you negotiate.
Y'all paid this guy.
Like we need more O's than Romo.
Romo. Straight soldier boy through the negotiation. And put it in context. So you know what? You might be right. But that's a lot of money to pay somebody to do something they ain't never done. There's no show and prove to that. And again, like I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but my gosh, man, this is when you hear people complain of white privilege, like what in the hell?
And he's not a media savvy, like I mean, I guess he's media savvy, but he doesn't have the charisma of a media personality.
He's savvy enough to avoid.
He's savvy enough to not talk to the media.
Right.
So how does that indicate to you that he can represent and be a personality? That's the point. Like you're paying him to do something that is the exact opposite of what he's done for 23 years.
Yeah. All right, I got to give you that trophy, Fox, because man, that is. You get the trophy for figuring out the worst way to spend a whole bunch of money. I don't know, but oh well. Shout out to Tom Brady because you get the trophy for being the luckiest man ever to walk the planet, my man. We'll go out with this last topic. Naomi Osaka, she started a sports agency, and the first tweet that she got was from Kyrie Irving, basically saying, "Is there room for basketball players?" I know that Kyrie Irving has addressed some of the off-the-field issues that people have, not necessarily mental health, but Naomi Osaka has been at the center of mental health. Shout out to Naomi Osaka. She gets the entrepreneurial trophy, man, because I do think that makes sense. If your brand is so strong and the negotiation with any deal is already done because you are Naomi Osaka or you are Tom Brady, it makes sense for you to be a service provider and get in the agency business and get the representation business. So shout out for her. My first piece of advice, unsolicited, don't you represent Kyrie. Don't create headaches out the blue. Don't look. Lead him where he be, because that's a hard client to have.
If it's the case, it's a niche market for representing athletes that don't play.
Right. And figure out a way how to not.
How do we monetize you as an athlete without having to be an athlete?
Without having to go out there and do anything, man. Hey, man, it was his sister's birthday, and with Ben, he had a back mental issue. So, it is what it is. In this episode, man, we talked about a lot. There's some great conversations. The NBA playoffs will reign on. We'll see if the Celtics can pull it off. I think they do in Game 6, go to Game 7. The WNBA and it as a business, honestly, I don't know what the answer is. And obviously, the WNBA does not either. When it comes to Brittany Griner, I think all of us, it's incumbent upon all of us, whether it be here at the Ball Hawk Sports Talk, which we have done. Free Brittany Griner over and over again. I think all of us as sports fans, but most importantly as human beings, as humanitarians, as people and members of the LGBTQ community, as members of the Black community, as members of the basketball community. It doesn't matter what you represent. Brittany Griner, I think, is a reflection of all of us, and that this young lady can be kept away from her family in such a hostile region without us up in arms says something about us more than it does about Russia. So I hope that we'll be presenting a trophy to her in this episode. Everybody gets a trophy, and that trophy is her liberation and her freedom. This has been a great week of sports, business, and entertainment. I'm your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. The Ball, a.k.a. the Mountain South, a.k.a. Mr. Celebration, a.k.a. Brady, here in my Miami Heat in my Dookie chain, representing that 305 South Florida, because we closed out last night, but most importantly, representing the Ball Hawk Sports Talk. It was only two of us. It was myself and ETP, my man, the Big Flow Show down there handling business. We bring it to you rough, rugged, and raw every Friday from a live recording perspective, but you can listen to us anytime. If you like, comment, share, and tag a friend, tag a foe. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel and to the podcast. And with that, we is out. Peace.